Welcome back to Flow State with Tyler and Sean the Flock. This is episode number 16. In this episode, we talk about Tyler's fresh beard. We go into trying to solve our problems versus accepting what is. I talk about my interview with one of my clients, Jeff Cohen, who is an author of an upcoming book called The Wolf That Wins. We also then get into how we help people through bringing awareness to their problems, and we finish up with how we integrate masculine and feminine energy in our approach to our everyday lives. Guys, if you like this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review, and please enjoy episode number 16.
Flow state, I can't wait to see straight. I can't wait to change fate. I can't wait to flee hate. Keeping all my good traits, letting all the mistakes go. I beat the foe, I take control. Spread good vibes is all I'm told. Never sold, there's always more. I can grow and I'll explore all the past that I can map out in my head. It's like a tour. Know the world is evil, people strip you right down to the core. But you know that you can be way better than you were before. For your mother, for your father, for your sister or your toddler, you can be the one that makes them feel the best when they're around you. So don't be a lazy coward, just listen for an hour. Sean and Tyler about to show you just how you can hold the power.
Sorry, I'm a little late. I had to make a dookie.
You blasting dookies? Where's the spray, Aaron? Where's the spray, Aaron? I just dropped a bomb.
That's a throwback. As a matter of fact, yeah, you're about to ask. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what's Jared Jones up? Shout out to Jared Jones.
I believe he's married. I'm not sure, but I know Jaretha P is doing okay, I think. I hope she's not dead.
Who's Jaretha P?
Jaretha P. Jones. It's Jaretha P. Jones. Miss Jaretha P. Jones. Stir it up. Stir it up.
Jared Jones. You take your pinky and your pointer finger and you lick them. And then you take those fingers and you put them right on the beginning of your eyebrows and you slide them down your eyebrows. You ever have wonky eyebrows that are out of place? Give yourself a little pointer finger lick, boom, and then trace that line. You're good to go.
I think you actually get arrested in some states for something like that. You better be careful with that.
Getting mic'd up?
I'm all mic'd up. Always mic'd up.
What are you doing on your end?
Am I on? Am I on? Can you
You're
hear
on.
me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me before?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I got poor connection, it looks like.
Oh, no.
On my side.
You're not even in the gym?
I'm not even in the gym. I'm at home. Made a dookie at home. My home field advantage.
Nice.
Home court advantage. You know how that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the TP. The TP you're rolling with. You Cottonelle guy?
The TP. Cottonelle? What is this? The People's Republic of North Korea? Dude, Charmin.
Charmin?
Come on, man, with the bears on it.
Oh, the bears.
Cottonelle. What are you
they're
talking
so cute.
about?
Those bears. Anytime you watch the commercial with those guys, you just want to give them a hug.
Yeah. Except, they got some shitty asses because the bear shits in the woods. That's where that whole thing comes from. Does a bear shit in the woods? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
So I hear you.
You hear me.
So
but do you hear me?
I hear you. So what's cooking?
Let's go back a second.
Okay.
What's cooking, Tyler?
What's cooking with me?
Why are you trying to put this back on me? Why are you making me try to start the revolution? Let's go, Tyler. Step up to the plate. What are you working with?
Beautiful day in New York.
Hold on. What do you got? Like some like beads in your hand or something? Some worry beads? What do you got going right now? I got a lot of clanking and going on.
Oh, is it the cord rubbing on? That's what's going on.
Yeah, it sounds like you got Mardi Gras beads on.
My beard's gotten too long again.
You're working with a beard right now?
I'm going to have to shave it down for the pod. Because what happens
it's for the best of the pod, man.
Yeah. If you listen, you hear
Oh,
that?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's my
That's your
hair of my
Brillo pad
beard.
you call a beard?
Yeah.
Good God. How does anybody kiss you?
That's a good question. It's a good question that you can ask
They put
Dominique.
some chainmail on their face and they go in. I've been
So
listening to way too much Theo Vaughn, I think. I'm going to be seeing him this weekend.
that's exciting.
Right at 1811 Pico Boulevard. Get that hitter.
Get that hitter.
At my gym, I'm like, yo, man, how do you do that? how did you
Why
guys
are
get
you
how'd
why
you
are
guys
you
get
here right
that
now?
duped?
Yeah.
No. I think it goes to show that just so many people have a want of authentic connection, and we in some ways can be that vessel.
100%. Completely agree. That definitely resonates with me. But yeah, there's still always that fear underneath. There's like a part of you that just wants the problem solved, but the harder you want the problem solved, the more that's just going to show up.
Yeah, that's always fun.
Yeah. So you accept it. Laugh with it. I've been actually. It's been helpful, or it's not been helpful. Like having this experience, and because I've been doing, moving. I think moving beforehand has helped me have that introspection to at least bring awareness to it and not allowing it to stress me out. Because I think in the past it would have stressed me out a lot more. But I'm just like looking at it. I'm like, those feelings are still there. So silly.
So silly.
Yeah. So that's what I got going on in terms of what's been coming up for me this week, and like there's some fear involved in that. But I think I know at the other side of I'm like, I don't know if it's also like a part of me that's like not allowing myself to be so excited about it because I don't want I don't want to make others feel jealous, or maybe there's a part of me that's like, oh, I don't deserve this. I don't know. It's interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Right now, I am kind of in a place of not wanting to be as introspective, and I think I'm in a place of kind of like natural flow. And I don't even hesitate to use the word flow. It's just more of like I've kind of let go of my need to self actualize and self improve.
Mm-hmm. So rather than being in flow, just, okay, I know I have the tools there, and just whatever, rather than being like, okay, I'm just going to consistently try to be introspective and continue to dig, I'm just going to, like, whatever state I'm in, I'm just going to let that state be.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of it. In general, right now, I'm kind of not trying to figure things out, not trying to pry, and just kind of feeling more comfortable with not knowing.
Hmm. How's that been feeling?
Pretty good. Good. I mean, definitely, like as you're saying that, I feel my own judgment on myself. Like I need to be doing something else, or I need to be figuring things out. You know what I mean? Obviously, that's my own judgment, just because I have no idea where you're coming from on that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, what comes up for me is fear because I don't know. I don't know if this is the right way to do it. But falling back on the idea of there is no right way to do it.
Right.
And the more I try to figure out a right way to do it, the further away from actual like presence that I'm actually becoming.
Yeah, what came through for me is this idea of the introspection being similar to just working out. And if you're always working out and never giving yourself a break, is that beneficial? So it's almost taking a break from the introspection and allowing to come up what needs to come up. And then you know that it's always there. And that's the thing. You can always, it's never external, it's always internal. And just knowing that. So allowing yourself to kind of back off a little bit and ease up and maybe not try to force it quite as much. And let's see what comes up. And I think that's awesome. Thing last night, Dominique was definitely really stressed out. She's has people coming over tonight, and she just was cleaning the apartment. I could feel like just like how stressed out she was, and she was putting off eating dinner until she finished cleaning everything up and getting everything ready. And I think it was like almost like 10 o'clock. She still hadn't eaten. I could just like feel like how stressed out she was, and parts of me wanted to interject and let her know, but I knew that that's not what she needed, and she just needed to be in that moment. And when she came out of it, then I could maybe give her like a little bit, or just like show her I love her or whatever. But in that moment, as she was in like that stressful pattern, there was nothing I knew there was nothing I could say or do to kind of change that, because you're exactly right. She wasn't in a part where she had invited me or would be open to it, because she was fully in that pattern. And I think that's the thing, is we need to be able to recognize when people are in pattern and be empathetic to that and be aware of it. And like you said, not try to force your energy onto them, and allow them to kind of work through it themselves. And then once they're out of it, then maybe you can have a talk, or maybe you can have a discussion and figure out like what was really going on.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, if you really need to. I mean, if you're really living in the moment, maybe you just move from that place of awareness, and you don't even really need to reconcile it. You're aware of it, and you go, okay, I'm choosing another way. I mean, sometimes obviously there are instances where you sit down and be like, hey, what's going on? I'd love to hear your perspective, and I want to learn, and I'm open to you teaching me.
Right.
Whereas, like, are we really having the conversation to reconcile some part of our ego that we don't feel good about? Right? Like, that's kind of what I have done in the past, is like, oh, let's have a conversation about this. Well, why are you really having a conversation? Because I'm not okay with this.
Right.
And, I was having a conversation with my girlfriend, Lauren, about, we got pretty deep on Saturday morning-ish about, the reason for us trying to intervene is because we're not okay with the situation. And is there really a conversation that needs to be had with those two people, or is it more of a conversation with yourself in terms of you reconciling the trigger points that you've addressed? And then after you've actually come to grips with those triggers, then there might be something to talk about. But until you actually do that, you're going to be coming from a place of, you aren't satisfying my needs.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. And that goes back to the conversation I had with Jeff Cohen. He's like I said, he's a lawyer. He's in his late 50s. He's coming out with a book pretty soon called The Wolf That Wins. We had a nice long conversation this weekend, and I'm going to be planning on having him on a podcast pretty soon. Is the idea that if I am coming at you with that type of energy, it means that you're not satisfying something that I need, in which case you better be ready to stand up for what you need, which is fine, but you've also got to be prepared for that other person not being able to provide you with whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
I think there are certain things within a relationship that you might find need to be reciprocated. Like, I need respect in this relationship. I need love in this relationship. I need some kind of attention in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have that conversation with that other person, be prepared to concede something, because that person is never going to be complete. Oh, you're right. Absolutely. I respect you all the time and no problem. Like, it's never going to happen that way. And if it does, in his words, that's fucking boring. You're not gonna grow from the relationship.
Right.
Because you really, realistically, all you have is a person who just wants to please you.
Right.
And it's going to be, and again, his words, not mine. You ain't going to want to fuck them. You know what I mean? Because that person, you don't respect them.
Right.
So if there has to be this give and take, now there's friction, and when there's friction, there's fire. And that's kind of what builds a passionate relationship. And again, kind of using his perspective, he does believe in masculine and feminine energy. You know, and obviously I believe that there's gray areas based upon your upbringing. I think there's a lot of women who have much more masculine energy and many men who have more feminine energy. And I think the world needs both. However, you need to know who you are, and maybe, you know, you need to grow in certain areas of like, okay, I'm primarily feminine energy here, and maybe I need some masculine energy to kind of have some balance, and vice versa.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying before, just like if you recognize that your partner is doing that and they're not allowing you to grow or to step into that, yeah, are they really meant for you?
I think that's very dependent upon the situation and the individual. And I think maybe and I asked him about that. I'm like, yo, how do you know what you need, and how do you know it's just not something that you're making a big deal of? And again, I shut my mouth and I listen, and I try to see it from his perspective as best as possible, because even though I know a lot, he's had a lot of more experience in this area. Like, I've had one relationship. He's had a marriage, kids, and a second marriage for 9 years. So he's been in his second marriage longer than I've been dating.
Right.
So, and he has some kind of introspection and self-awareness.
Yeah. So he can just bring so much more just different details to the conversation.
What he brings is experiential knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't read it in a book. He experienced it himself. And the beautiful part about the conversation that I had with him is that I was able to let go of my judgment of what I think I should be or he should be, and realize that, yo, in his mind, he is the best version of himself.
Yeah.
Right. Or, you know, or becoming the best version of himself, or he's doing his very best. And in a lot of ways, like, for me to see that is like, damn, like, I want to do that. I want to, you know, be in a place where I'm like, yeah, I'm just doing the best I can with what I got. And that's not a waving the white flag. It's a admittance that you are powerless to change the things that you don't have power to change, and you can accept the things that you can't change, and you are willing to change the things that you do have the power to change through the grace of God and through courage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So going back to your original question about relationships, communication, and expressing how you feel is the best way of going about it.
Yeah. And the way you express that is everything. Because I think a lot, like we were saying before, a lot of us aren't given the tools of how to express ourselves, don't have the tools to really know what our needs are, that we focus on the external first and we don't focus on how it resonates within us. So super simple example would be somebody who's constantly leaving dishes in the sink. You create this whole story of you don't respect my, you're not respecting me, so on and so forth. But until you recognize, like, why is that triggering you so much, and like what need isn't truly being met, then you can finally have the conversation of like, hey, when you're leaving dishes in the sink, like, this need isn't being met. How do we, and then I don't know, it could be how do we come up with a solution? It could be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll put the dish in the sink. Or it's like, well, my need of this, I'm just too busy, I'm focusing on this. And then it's like, okay, so what's the solution we can come up with that makes it so either A, I'm at least acknowledged, because I think that's where a lot of this stuff comes from, is that we don't feel seen and we don't feel heard. And as long, I think a lot of that goes a long way, is if we feel seen and feel heard, and then that takes care of a huge percentage of the issues.
I would agree. For me personally, the first thing that I do when something comes up like that is I address what it is that's being triggered inside of me, and I spend some time with that feeling. Because if I just respond from the fact that I feel disrespected, then I'm going after her as, you need to respect me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that person is going to go, Wall, fuck you.
Yeah.
So until I accept and feel through the trigger,
Mm-hmm.
nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So once I get over that, then it's as simple as having a conversation with somebody, right? Because now you're not dealing with your ego versus their ego. You're dealing with just the facts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In the book that I'm reading, he talks about how when you're in those arguments, it's who's painting who as the victim.
Yes.
So if you can let go of the fact that you're a victim, just how much growth and how much more of a
Yeah.
powerful conversation you can have when no one's a victim. You're just as responsible in this relationship as the other person. And if you can take that approach, then you don't have to have a pissing contest of who was hurt more or, who's in the wrong.
Exactly.
We both can come to a level playing field and hash things out.
I would say you're spot on that.
Yeah.
And to add is the idea of victimness. And for me personally, like even like my needs not being met is something that I'm attached, a concept that I'm attached to. So if I were to ask somebody, hey, can you do this for me? And they actually do it, I feel bad.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, who am I to have my needs met? Because that's not congruent with what my story is.
Right.
But I am worthy of having my needs met. And that is one of the greatest challenges we have working with a significant other, is that when you ask to have your needs met, you open yourself up to being vulnerable. Because now the response is contingent on that other person, and now the ball's in their court.
Yeah. Do you find it almost I think there's also a gift in that, because when you do ask and your needs are met, it helps. What's going on?
Nothing. Say that one more time.
I was saying it's a true gift in that, because when you do ask, the more times you ask and your needs are met and your partner does come through for you, then that gives you opportunity to change that story.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only way that you're going to change stories is by action.
Right. Doing things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it takes that courage, right?
Yeah. Did you watch or did you see Brene Brown's thing on Netflix?
I saw that. The funny thing is, I saw that she put it out, and as the next morning, I was meeting with my client Jeff, and I told him, I go, did you happen to see that Brene Brown had a Netflix special? I've known Brene Brown for quite some time now, and as I was looking at that, I go, yo, there needs to be a male version of Brene Brown. And as I'm sitting on the couch saying that, I was like, what do you mean? Like, what, there needs to be a male motivational speaker? I'm like, no, there needs to be a male speaker who can connect with men on the same way that Brene Brown is, in terms of the concepts of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that will have a significant effect on male culture as is. I'm not saying that men aren't significantly different than women, but we all need to be comfortable being vulnerable, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to communicate with each other on a deep and profound way.
Right. And it's not that it's like a Brene Brown. It's just men will connect differently. I mean, it's just the speaker or the message and the energy that comes through that person as a male will definitely resonate differently with men. That's how I don't know.
Absolutely.
Even,
I think there's men who have good feminine energy and can kind of separate the wheat from the chaff. And understand that, like, this applies to me as well. But I think it'd be great to have burly men, manly men who are Joe Rogan types, who also have 3 or 4 females in their household too, and they can still be vulnerable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think that's why he has such a huge audience, is because he's built that exterior that almost gives him the clout, right? He's a
The
comedian.
sweat equity.
He the sweat equity. So he's a comedian. He has a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He's an MMA announcer, but he's also introspective. Um, he does float tanks, meditates in a way. So he's he is that masculine energy, but he's also, like I think you said, has
Yep.
built in so much of that feminine energy as well, and that's allowed him. And that there's like, I don't think there's any um, coincidence that since he had 3 daughters and he's grown, and every, however, I think it's past like 5-6 years where people have really resonated and connected with him. I don't think it's any um, coincidence that that's part of that. That like all of those elements came together to create this entity where people can resonate with, because it almost has that um, it has that clout that you're like, oh, it's coming out of, like, it's almost, you
Yeah.
don't expect it. It's this message coming out of somebody that you wouldn't expect. And I think that's something that resonates with me. And I imagine for you as well. And something that I think about a lot is that, I've built this exterior, and I think it's an asset in a way, and that it throws people off because they see something and they expect something. And when they experience what I'm saying, it's almost like this contradiction. So it helps them to, like, whoa, like I didn't think he would be this way, or I wouldn't think he would speak this way or feel this way. So it almost that like contradiction actually helps that message to resonate more. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
Is that something you've thought about before? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's that idea of like keeping people off balance.
Mm,
Um, like Darren Brown talks about that, how like you can manipulate somebody by coming at them in a way that they weren't anticipating.
mm,
Like he used that example, I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast, where a guy was about to fight him, and the guy was, he's about to pick a fight, and Darren Brown goes,
yeah.
"Yeah, my wall is 5 feet high," and I think I've used this example before, but and the guy was like, "Wait, what?" Like he completely just like flabbergasted the guy, and all of a sudden there was no conflict whatsoever. So I think when we go in with this preconceived notion and we're caught off balance, sometimes we are able to receive the message in a much more profound way. I mean, that's sometimes, obviously, there are circumstances where we are anticipating a message in a certain way, we don't get that message, and then we're turned off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Has that is that I guess going back to the question, is that something that you've experienced yourself or thought about yourself, or in the way that you've, I don't know, the content that you create or the message that you put out there or the way you run your business, anything along those lines?
For myself personally, I guess, I want to be this good person. I want to be this guru. I want to be the person who everybody follows, but nobody wants to follow that guy. And
Hmm.
that's the realization that I'm coming to now, is that the only people that are going to follow you are the people who need to follow somebody. Like
Hmm.
people who are truly strong and who have their own journey are not just going to follow you.
Right.
And those are the people who I would love to affect the most. So in that case, I have to let go of the story of trying to be the guru and just be myself as best as I can. And I think in the long run, that will resonate with those who are on their own journey too.
Yeah. There's a really good mantra from the book that I'm reading, The Big Leap. It's his main mantra. It's how it goes is I expand in abundance, love, and success when I inspire others around me to do the same.
Yep. Same idea as the when I shine bright, I give permission for others to shine as well.
Right. Or be in the lighthouse.
Be in the lighthouse. Yeah. And if there are people who are trying to diminish your light. It's so that their light doesn't seem as,
Dim.
dim. That's the word. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's why that's so freeing for me is then the work becomes internal and I am in control of it.
Yep.
And that's empowering, man. I think that's so big because everything before that, you're falling victim. And like you place your, and that's another thing that came up a lot this week, this idea of victimhood. Falling, am I the victim in a relationship? Am I falling victim to circumstances? Am I a victim to time?
Yep.
That's another thing that he says in this book, that we're always becoming a victim to time. There's not enough hours in the day. I have to get to bed by a certain time. I'm late for this. But if you can embody time and think of time as relative, so let go of the Newtonian sense of time and adopt the Einstein theory of time, and that obviously time is relative, then and then you can take it back, then once again you can take away the victimhood of time. And that was something that really resonated with me, because I feel that's something I didn't even realize how much it stressed me out, because of how much I place as a value of mine. Is like I always place value of being on time to an appointment. So I'll be like 10-15 minutes early. I imagine if you ask most of my clients, like, hey, can you count how many times Tyler has been late to a session? And on your hand, they'd probably say yes. Has Tyler ever missed a session? Most of them would say no. Maybe one would say yes, because there's one. But just like this. And I think for me, it's the reason in my mind, the logic behind it is because I want to come off a certain way by being on time and putting a value on time. So if I'm the person who's consistently on time and shows up, then that's somebody you can trust, and that says something about my character. So it was more I don't know, and then I was like, okay, is that expansive contracting? But at the end of the day, if you're consistently falling victim and have anxiety and stress around time, then you're a victim.
Yeah. And, obviously there's a part of me that wants to refute that and, tell you how it is. But realistically, if that works for you, who the fuck am I to say that that's not what you should be doing, right?
Right.
And potentially maybe there's something within that where there's truth that I don't want to do, which triggers my own insecurity about what I'm doing or why I'm doing it.
So in what way did that kind of trigger you, or what did that impact you in a way?
It doesn't trigger me at all. I'm just saying it's just like things that are maybe I don't agree with. And if I don't agree with it, that's fine. I don't think that's a bad thing or a good thing. I think it's just an understanding of why I might not agree with that, or what within myself that I don't agree with. Right? This idea that I have to do this, and this to make myself feel like I'm worthwhile. So that if I don't do it, I'm not worthwhile. Right? Mm-hmm. I'm not worthy of love if I show up late once.
Right. Yeah.
So I have to kind of live by these bylaws. And if I'm not living by those bylaws, or if I have an extenuating circumstance, now I'm going to beat the shit out of myself for doing it.
Right.
So that's kind of where I push back against that. But I also know that, like, you can use that as an excuse to be an asshole. Right.
Well, that's the thing is, like, all right, I'm trying to adopt this idea of, okay, time is relative, and I get that concept, but it's how do I be considerate of other people's time and also hold that concept of time is relative?
Yeah.
Do you have to let go of the idea that you have to be considerate of other people's time?
Yeah. So it's almost like a conversation we've had a couple podcasts back of, like, if you have the mask on, like, that's really all that matters. Right? Like, what I think is really all that matters. And as long as what I'm thinking is correct, then everybody else will be taken care of. But not everybody thinks the way that we think, right?
Right.
So if you say, well, time's just relative, who cares? And that person's like, yo, man, you were 15 minutes late. I'm not paying today. It's like, well, how do you how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, I don't know. That was what the questions I have. And maybe it's maybe the idea is trying to drive home and to let go of time and embody that idea of time can either, time obviously is, like you said, is relative, in that, like, if you're bored, time just, 20 minutes can feel like 3 hours. Or if you're in a hot sauna, those 15-20 minutes in a
Or an
sauna
ice bath.
or an ice bath might as well 1 minute, or a cryo chamber, whatever that thing is.
Yep.
Those 3 minutes might feel like 3 hours. And when you're in flow, 5 hours feels like 20 minutes or 10 seconds. Or he makes the point, if a child came into your room, they were like, hey, will you play with me? And you would say, no, I'm busy right now. I can't play with you. I don't have the time. But if your child came into you and was like, hey, I have a cut, I just cut my foot really bad, you would make the time. So it's not about the time. It's just the idea of what you're prioritizing in that moment.
One thing I've been doing a lot more of is, instead of trying to go with the things that I've learned before, listen to the silence and see what that says. Because a lot of the time when I respond to things, I don't allow things to sink in, and then I kind of respond from pre-programmed, rhetoric and things I've heard before. And for me to respect this moment, I think listening to the space and listening to the silence adds a lot more to things. And if I hear nothing in the silence, then I'll be upfront with it. Like, I have nothing to add. So there was a conversation yesterday with some people, like, I think they were saying, what do you think about this in Colin Kaepernick? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I honestly, like, it really doesn't mean anything to me. And if I were to say anything, it would just be a regurgitation of what other people have said. So I'm good. Because I'm very good at that, because I'm well read. I pick up on a lot of things. If I know that something could potentially be used to prove that I'm smart, I'll remember it.
Right.
It's like memorizing the 50 capitals.
Yep. Oh,
Makes you feel special.
Yeah.
But, like, you're not really adding anything authentic to this. You're just taking somebody else's words and putting them in your mouth and making it seem like you're smart. But I don't think you really, it's not you then. Your addition to the conversation is not contingent on your own person. It's contingent upon what you've read and the people you've encountered.
Yeah.
Feels inauthentic to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as soon as you said, like, the 50 state capital, same thing. I remember memorizing capitals as a kid. And I mean, I don't know if you have this skill, but that was a huge skill of mine growing up with school, is just the ability to memorize and regurgitate on a test,
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it goes back to why we do that, because it gives us a sense of, oh, wow, I get a pat on the head if I can do this.
Yeah. Or a grade. And
yeah.
So maybe we're just battling against that programming of,
could be.
Yeah. But I totally agree with you in terms of if you do give space to that, then what creeps in is that judge of, so maybe you're dealing with the judge right now, the inner judge of not weighing in because you don't want to play the role of regurgitator. So you're like, okay, I know I'm the role of regurgitator and I don't want to feel hypocritical. So I'm bringing awareness to that fact. So I won't even give it that opportunity. So I'll just shut it off.
Yeah, that could be it. Obviously, part of me maybe not being heard in the way that I think I'm trying to be heard, but I don't think that's your responsibility. I think that's my responsibility to be more clear. But something else that comes up for me is how to help people in general. So say a person comes to you and says, hey, I want to lose weight. Like how do you, what is our first reaction to that? Like what's your, I want to lose weight. Right. So we have this idea of what we think we want them to be versus where they are. And how do we best serve that person in order to get them? Because we don't know what they want to be. And they don't really know what they want to be. They think that if they get to losing weight, then they'll be happy.
Yeah.
So do we directly go to, well, I don't think you really need to do that. I think you just got to be loving yourself and blah, blah, blah. Like that really isn't respecting where they are. And I think in that way, it kind of like judges them maybe a little bit for them not knowing where they are. On the opposite side of the spectrum, do we feed into that ego of saying, okay, let's lose weight? Because you really know that like that's not going to make you happy.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that, Mr. Tyler?
I think it's the paradox, right? Everything's a paradox. So in addressing their weight issue, I think we shed light on their ability to change their story. So in order for them to change weight, it's the perfect opportunity to shed an identity. And if you're the person who's right to serve them, you will be able to connect with them and give them the tools to see it within themselves. And you can provide frameworks and also, the nutritional advice, the workout advice, and have them changing their body and seeing those, and then that will allow them to kind of tap into that. And in order for them to even follow what you're saying, how much has to change within themselves. So if you can guide them in that ability to, I think that's where the change happens. It's not really so much in the change of their body. It's in their ability to follow through with even what you're saying, because so much has to adapt in order for them to even follow through. So I understand what you're saying in that, like, by, their concept of like, this will make me happy. So like, why even bother? Because, then that's not even the thing, we're going after we're not even going after the right fruit, like the lowest hanging fruit. We're not even going after the right thing. But like you said, if they're not in the position to even think that way, and then you're totally, set in your ways that like, if you're not even on this, if you're not even resonating at this frequency right now and don't even have this understanding, then I won't work with you. But I think if you can understand where they're coming from and you went through the same journey yourself, and you're like, okay, I know we're going to start here, and then along the way, we're going to figure a lot of things out. So kind of like open yourselves up and just integrate both. Integrate the egoic sense, and integrate the mindfulness, and integrate the both of these. It's like kind of like integrating both the masculine and the feminine. And I think it's like a balance, and that's why you're there to serve them.
Yeah, that absolutely could be true. And if that works, that's kind of, I think that's a great strategy. And I think when you talked about putting it on them and making them aware of things, I think that's a great starting point of like, I'm not going to tell you to or not to, but I'm just wondering why you would want to lose weight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you feel like you need to lose weight? Yeah, look at me, I'm a fat fuck. Or, yeah, my clothes don't fit right. Okay, cool. Like, so, like, if your clothes fit right, like, how do you think you would feel?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And just bringing the awareness and being curious. And I think obviously what comes up right away for me is the idea that I want them to think a certain way, or I think they need to think a certain way, or judgment of the way that they're currently thinking. Like, how could this person be at this point in their life? But like, as soon as I actually see that, it fades. So then it's kind of left with me being able to be in the space of, hey, I'm here to help you, and I'm curious.
Yeah.
Like, why do you really want to lose weight? Like, what, do you think that that's something that you've always wanted to do? Is this something that just recently came up? Did someone say something? Like, why all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Why did it trigger something within
exactly. Like, what was it? Well, I was at a Christmas party and I just saw a picture of me and I just, like hated myself for it. All right, cool. Like, I just wanted to, I'm just curious. And are you aware that kind of is, you're feeling that way about yourself,
Right.
know? And do you think if you lost the weight, you would feel better about yourself? Yeah, I think I do. Instead of preaching to them.
Right. Yeah. You allow them to experience those feelings for themselves.
Yeah.
And then how those feelings resonate within their body. And if they can connect with that, then that opens them up for the opportunity to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And then maybe they come to a point where they invite you to help them.
Yeah.
Because if you're preaching, well, you shouldn't be thinking that way, or that doesn't serve you or whatever. Like, I don't know how far you're going to get. Like, I think there's also something to say about like being very forward with some people and just being like, you're not fucking that. Like, look at me. You're not that. And if you want to fucking make it in this world, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There is that upfront energy that could potentially serve people as well. So like you said before, that balance of the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
And smacking them in the face with some awareness.
Yeah.
Like a fat kielbasi.
And I think if you're yourself, the more open open you are to whatever they're bringing to the table, and just being open with them and allowing to flow through what needs to flow through and trust in that process, then it's like almost just like trusting in the universe and allowing the universe to flow through you. So you've built the tools to help this person or guide this person in some way. And if they come to you and it's the right person, then those will come through and you'll be able to connect with them and begin that process with them. At least my belief in it.
Yeah.
Just allowing that to sink in.
Yeah. I mean, not too much to add. I think that's probably pretty good for the week there, Mr. Tyler.
All right, brother.
If we need to get a hold of you, how can we get a hold of you?
You can catch me at Tyler Flock on Instagram and tflowfitness.com. I'll be leaving for Italy Tuesday night, so I imagine I'll be posting some stories along the way, giving you guys take you guys along for the ride.
So I'm assuming we will not be podcasting next week.
Probably not. We'll see.
Well, I don't want to put it on you, so let's call it a no for this next week, and we'll maybe I'll do a solo podcast, or maybe I'll put up an interview this week so we have some content for the week. What do you think?
That's a good idea.
All right, there you go. A little solo pod, maybe a little me in a log cabin kind of thing.
Yeah.
Me and my babies. And if you need to get a hold of me, I'm Sean the Flock. You can get me at flockfitness.com, Flock Fitness on Instagram. I have a Flock Fitness YouTube page as well, posting tons of content there as well. Guys, if you like this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review, and make sure you tune in every Friday for a new episode.
I thought they were on Thursdays.
Thursday, Friday, whenever I post it.
Thursday, right. Flow State Thursdays.
Flow State Thursdays, perfect. All right, Tyler.
All right.
I love you, buddy. Safe travels and enjoy Italy.
Thanks.